We are going to be making a loom for our paper weaving project. Our loom is going to look like grass, and this is where we're going to weave our snakes. You can start off with a plain white piece of paper or a green paper if you want your grass to be green. If you don't have green paper, you can always use coloring materials to color your paper green later. When you have your paper, you want to use a pencil to draw vertical lines on your paper. You want to draw 5 to 8 of them across. So as I drew my lines, I made sure that they didn't go all the way to the bottom. This is important for when we're making our loom. I left a little space at the bottom and I stopped my lines right before that. I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. So all of the spaces in between my lines are going to be my strands of grass. I used a ruler to make my lines nice and straight, but if you just want to free draw your lines and do the best you can, that's okay too. After you have your lines drawn and make sure that they're not going to the bottom of your paper, you're going to get out your scissors. We're going to use our scissors to cut slits in our paper down where the pencil lines are. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut along my pencil line, and I'm going to keep going until my pencil line stops. It's important to stop at your pencil line and that you don't cut through all the way to the bottom of your paper. You don't want to cut out your strips. You want them to stay on so that they're still attached at the bottom. I cut down one slit so far, so now I'm going to cut along all of my other pencil lines so that I have more strands of grass that I can pull up. Now that I've cut along all of my pencil lines to make slits, I'm going to lift them up to make sure they're still attached to my paper. Remember, you don't want to cut them through all the way to the bottom. You want them to stay attached. So you can see I've got all sorts of different strips now that are attached to my paper. These are my strands of grass. Now to make them look more like grass, we're going to cut the tops of each strip to make a triangle shape or a point, because grass is kind of pointy. So we're going to do this strip by strip. I'll pick up one strip at a time to do it. And you're going to want to cut a diagonal line this way, and then right at your point, cut another diagonal line the other way. This will make a triangle or point shape at the top so that it looks more like grass. You're going to want to do this to each of your strands. So you'll pick it up and you'll cut your little triangle shape out at the top. If you're having a hard time with this, you can draw a dot at the middle of your strip and then draw in the lines of the triangle where you're going to be cutting them off. This might help guide some of you if you need to draw it in first and then cut it out. Now I cut the tips of each of my strands or strips to be triangles or points, so that way they look more like grass. We're going to hold on to these and use them for weaving our snakes. We're going to weave the snakes through our grass. So they're going to go under and over, under and over, under and over until they get to the other side. So it's really important that you keep your grass in a safe place for next week. If you have some extra time today, you can start making some snakes. If you finish making your grass early, you can start to make your snakes. We're going to make a lot of different snakes to weave through our grass. Let's just start with one today. So we're going to get another piece of paper for our snake. You can use white paper and color it, or you can use colored paper. So I want to lay my paper vertical so that way it's up and down just like my grass. And I'm going to draw my snake from one side to the other. So first I want to start out with a curvy line for the snake's face. It's kind of like the letter C. And then snakes are wavy. So we're going to draw wavy lines on each side that end at a point for the snakes. So you can see I started out with a curvy line for the snake's head. And now I'm going to draw some wavy lines that end on a point. So I've got one snake. It's got the curvy line at the front for the head, wavy lines coming off of the head that meet at a point on the end for the snail's end of its tail. Now that I have my snake drawn, I'm going to cut along my pencil lines so that way I can cut out my snake. If you're working on a snake today, save it with your grass so we can work on it next class.